I think it was exceptionally well. The reviews that are that are out there right now make us really happy, because it turns out that the game is really high rated, and that everybody thinks that we succeeded at the most important features of the game, at least for us, which is obviously which is a good feedback, meaning that we wanted the game to be what it actually is, and that the kind of RPG that we created we succeeded in putting that through to people. The game with a rich, mature story, with a living and reacting world, and combat, as always. It's controversial, and it always be, but I think more people like combat than don't, so it's good. Yeah, we're happy. I cannot, confirm nor deny any speculations, rumors, and any gossips. But the fact is, as we've always been repeating, we would like to do a console version of The Witcher 2. We are having huge announcement at E3, and before that, I cannot give any details, but we are planning to give people insight in our future plans during E3 this year. And all I can say is that we definitely do want to sit down in making a new project. It's not going to be something that is just a remake. Whether it's going to be, a remake of The Witcher 2 for any particular console, or any extra content for The Witcher 2, it's going to be a new project done entirely, entirely on its own. So you probably want to watch our presentation at E3, or at least look out for any media coverage. Regarding the numbers of games that sell, it's obviously, you can see it. I mean, you don't want to discuss or argue with numbers. But regarding whether or not people might like the console version of The Witcher 2, or whether or not PC players might hate us for trying to do a PC game, or even doing it. Well, hopefully we might even want to do it. But I don't believe anybody will be disappointed, because our main goal with the PC version of The Witcher 2 was to prove that we are doing a full-blown game. We are not sacrificing anything, and I think people see that this game was done with PC in mind. It was developed for PCs. So, and it was one of the reasons why we were not aiming towards doing PC and console release at the same time, because we wanted to focus on one aspect. And if we're going to sit down to doing The Witcher 2, we definitely do it in the same manner, so that console players will be happy. So I don't think I'm pretty sure we won't disappoint anybody. The fact is that we just want to focus on doing, a game for a certain dedicated audience. It was the case with PC. We would like to sit down to making a console version, and definitely if we do it, we're going to be, dedicated to console players as well, without sacrificing anything from PC version of the game, because the PC version of the game still has support. We are releasing patches, and we still will be releasing patches definitely until end of this year, maybe even further on. Not too much, I would say. You probably have not met Andrzej Sapkowski ever. I imagine you wouldn't. I mean, why would you, right? But the thing is, he's not only not a gamer, he's also really reluctant towards any modern media, any new media. I don't know whether he watches TV or watches movies, but I'm pretty certain he does not play games. So I don't know why. I just do not want to, investigate this. It's his life. He does whatever he wants to do it, but he's not really interested in computer games. So he did not really help us this time. It's not that we didn't want. it just didn't came. There was no occasion for it. So it's pretty much the case. And the other thing is the license that we have for The Witcher in the area, in the scope of electronic entertainment, allows us to do anything we want. I mean, pretty much, still holding on to the franchise. We can do a game that has our own storyline. We can invent it our own way, and we can do it in any way that we want. Obviously, we wanted to keep it consistent with Andrzej Sapkowski's world, but still, the game happens after the books have ended. So the case is that we're just trying to make at least as good storyline as Andrzej Sapkowski did. It's not that simple, the answer to this question. Obviously, among a lot of things that we were inspired by, there are other games. But the truth is, there's just so much to give you inspiration for a weird game like The Witcher 2, because it's not a typical RPG. It's quite old school. It's quite, not too many people do RPGs like this these days. So to be able to do a game that's unique in a way, like The Witcher 2, we definitely had to draw inspiration from more than just, what everybody thinks is the most obvious source for inspiration. So we did movies, we did games of other genres, like, I don't know, Batman, Heavy Rain. These are games that, inspired us in many different ways. But also among these, there were old hardcore RPG games, or even slightly newer ones. I don't know, Mass Effect or Dragon Age as well. It's like we always try to do our own game. The thing is, whether you see references to other games, it's not bad. Have you seen Easter egg that we've done with Altair from Assassin?
We loved it.
Yeah, it is inspirations as well, right? It's just it's kind of a funny joke, but from what I've heard, there is no antagonism, there is no friction in between us and Ubisoft, and they loved it. When I've recently even emailed with one guy from Ubisoft, and he told me that most of guys in Ubisoft have seen this Easter egg and they loved it. And their comment was, "Yeah, you were right. Leaps of faith are really dangerous. No wonder this time you failed." And we laughed together. So it is inspiration as well. So we do get inspired from like thousands of things, not only those 10 that are, or 5 that are most obvious. So yeah, the answer is obviously old school games as well, but it's just a small fraction. It's like a lot of our friends say that in order to be able to use swear words and not come out as an idiot, you have to be more intelligent than people that normally use swear words a lot. So what we tried to do with The Witcher 2 is we definitely wanted to aim for doing like, intelligent dialogues. I mean, sometimes intelligent people stress things in like childish way, or being like like 15-year-old, and this is when sometimes swear words come in handy. It's not that we always intentionally wanted to have too much swear words to fill everything with them. There are characters that don't use even one single swear word because they're like, I don't know, bourgeoisie or whatever you might want to call them. But still, like common folk, they do swear. Just people swear, like especially common folk. So they do in our game because we want the game to resemble the real world. Well, I could say two things about that. The one of them is that we wanted the game to be hardcore. So if the game is hardcore, that means that it can't be too easy. If you remember old games, which probably might be like a synonym of hardcore for us these days, if you play old games on a normal difficulty setting, they're like 3 times as difficult as today's games on normal. So that's why it wasn't strange to us that it's not too easy to fight on normal. On the other hand, obviously, if you choose the easy difficulty setting, you're not forced to use any advanced tactics in a game. But the other thing is, from the very beginning of our, let's call it, informational campaign, we always stressed that The Witcher 2 would be a hardcore game for hardcore players. So I don't think anybody should be surprised that choosing normal difficulty, we actually do assume that he has at least slight level of being a hardcore player. I remember one of the early demos of The Witcher 2 that we were doing like 1.5 year ago or so. And there was a scene where a few soldiers were eating at the inn where the cook, she was cooking and she served them food. They finished, it was a soup or whatever, they finished it and they said, "Lady, please tell us what is your secret ingredient for this soup. It is so good." And she said, "It's blood, sweat, and tears. That there's no secret ingredient. You just have to work a lot, and then people appreciate it." So yeah, I mean, coming all the way around from this joke to what I want to tell you is that we have been developing this game for almost 4 years. This is the secret. I mean, you cannot do a good RPG, solid one, that has 40 hours of playthrough and that is really, full and rich with content and looks like The Witcher 2 within like a year or 9 months. You have to take your time and you have to, what our artists say about, making these locations that they do look so good. They say that at the end of the process, they always need to take like 2-3 days to massage every pixel on the location. This is what this is their saying. And it's so true. Seriously, you have to, put a lot of heart and take your time, and it works that way. We actually dream of being as rich as Blizzard one day, to be able to make games when they're done. It's not like different path or a totally new story. There is space for continuation. I'm not announcing that there will be a Witcher 3, but we definitely left the door open. So we would like to do it one day, probably. Still, it's like, when we finished The Witcher 1, we did not promise that The Witcher 2 would, come to life. It did. We're happy with it, and we started working it right away. But if you remember correctly, even after starting the work on The Witcher 2, we did not announce the project right away. We took some time to actually make sure that we have plans for everything, that we have prototyped everything, and that we are sure that the game will bound to happen. So it's going to be the same with The Witcher 3, whether we will have time, money, and people for this. Then we will start planning it, and then we will, say, okay, we're ready to tell you that The Witcher 3 will be done for sure, and we probably will even announce when. But until then, it's like totally, like song of the future.
Well, we're going on facts, not words, so better wait.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But getting back to the story continuation, there is like a door open to, to keep Geralt going in the next installment of the franchise. I can't tell you how Good Old Games compares to other systems because the reason behind creating Good Old Games, it wasn't me, because I'm working in, RED. Good Old Games is a different company, although in the same building. We're friends all, but, I just don't know everything what's going on inside their office. Still, the reason for creating Good Old Games was not to be better or worse than any other part of the industry. It was just a dream that has many years of, life in heads of creators of CD Projekt. So the thing was, these guys always wanted to create like a platform not only for retro gaming, because they loved all games. Who doesn't, right? We all do. And they always wanted to sell it without DRM and with tons of goodies. And these have become like main pillars of the activity on of everything that Good Old Games does. And it's like it works great because it's a dream coming true to be able to create Good Old Games. When you see that, it like kind of works. And from the reception that we get, and from the recognition and appreciation that we get from people who recognize Good Old Games, it kind of seems that we were not alone in having that dream. So it turns out that it was a really good idea. It's just good that somebody had enough balls to actually do it one day. It's on hold. It's on hold. Right now we are not doing anything regarding it was later on named to interference from what I remember. But still, regarding that shooter, it's on shelf, it's on hold. It was a really good project. Actually, I'm a shooter fan myself. I dream of that one coming back one day and getting back into development, but it's not happening right now. we would like to do that. It's just, it always comes down to three things, as I say: time, money, and people. And it's really nice to hear. Seriously, I want to tell to all Romanian players that we never got any bad word from any previous reviews or any media from Romania. It's always been fantastic. We will never forget that there hasn't even been a single complaint from Romanian fans. That's really what makes your heart beat faster.